G'day, folks. It's Detour Live time again. We're ready to unpack a action-packed opening time trial at the Giro. I'm joined by three-time national road race champion, Johnny Trevorrow. He actually rode the Giro. I used to give you stick during the Tour de France, but this is one Grand Tour you did ride, so that's bloody great. And Olympic gold medalist from Sydney 2000, Scotty McGrory. How you going, boys?
Good, mate.
We're going well, Daniel.
What were the takeaways from last night? Look, bloody carnage.
Super quick, though, wasn't it? Average speed, 58 kilometres per hour for a time trial. Of course, if you're going to go downhill, it's going to be faster than normal, so it's not like a true average, I suppose. But, yeah, really risky. Really, really risky. Some complaints. Obviously, Victor Campenaerts was the one that complained the most. He did have a crash. And I heard Brad Wiggins' comments about that. He looked at the crash and just thought, well, hang on, right error. You know, he just stuffed up. He ballsed it up, apparently, is what the way Wiggo said it. You've got two levers on your bike that attach to your handlebars, and when you're going downhill into a hairpin, you pull on them and it slows you down. That's what Victor didn't get right.
What do you reckon, Iffy?
Yeah, look, the interesting one to me was Lopez, because he fell off on a straight bit of road, and I was talking with Scotty earlier about that. I found out a little bit more. He broke his handlebar extensions, cracked at the same time. He had a bump, and they combined together, and down he went. But it was a real strange one. Did you get a chance to look at that one, Scotty?
I did have a look at it, and just by your description there, I've watched enough episodes of NCIS to probably work out that the broken handlebar was from actually hitting the bump. I reckon that's what happened. It wasn't just simultaneously at the same. But yeah, he was approaching a corner, and he's put one hand onto the normal handlebars to almost get himself ready for the corner. Still had one on the time trial position, and just unfortunately hit a bump at the same time. So that put him off balance, and it just pinged him straight into the barriers. So really bad luck for him to crash out of the race. So that, yeah, obviously I felt that he could probably, if he's recovered okay since the tour, be the main man for Astana. We talk about Jakob Fuglsang, but he hasn't had the Grand Tour results as what Lopez has. So I think he might have been the man that third week if he could have held his form. Well, it doesn't matter now, and he's out.
He's out, exactly.
Lee Barry's got a good question. What do you think of EF's fine for their helmets? I wasn't aware they were fined. What happened there? Do you know?
No.
We actually don't have an opinion, Lee. We'll let that one go through to the keeper.
I was going to say, I agree with it. I do agree with it, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Also, I don't care. I don't care about it.
Wendy Superfan, hi guys. Do every team have a representative regarding rider safety during races? No.
I think there is a riders' organisation that is supposed to be in charge of that with the UCI. Haven't had a lot of voice. They really haven't. It's almost a bit of a token. Really, it's not a real riders' union as it's always been asked for.
Gianni Bugno is not exactly really popular because of that. He gets paid very well, and they don't reckon he does a good enough representing job. But in answer to Wendy's question, I suppose the DS of every team is the person who would be looking after the safety of the team. I'm sure that's really part of his role.
Well, we all thought that Garner was going to win the stage, and this was his comments thanks to Vallon post race.
It's strange because
right now.
This jersey,
what's going on? The video is not working. That's interesting. We could have an interesting episode, boys, if the video is not working. But anyway, he was obviously stoked after the finish there.
Coming up.
I don't. Dan, we were watching it perfectly.
Really?
Yeah, I could see.
Hang on, I'll try. Okay. How much of the interview did you get?
Well, it was just the start of it. He was in the car and he had his mask on and he was yabbering away, but you cut us off. Yeah. And you were yabbering in the back.
Well, he just said he was. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. Now I've got technical difficulties. But he was stoked. He just said, how good's this? I've got the rainbow jersey. Now I've got the pink jersey. But obviously Simon Yates would have been stoked with that ride. And Hopefully this video works. This is the best bits of the backstage pass with all the action in the car.
Stuck right there in the number comes. Leave smooth operator looking like a bum.
The race is going to be won over 3 weeks, not 13 minutes.
My girl got the city to run. Got the key to the kingdom where the money's from. Never seen Scully yelling, never seen the sun.
Good, mate. The middle of the road is a good place to be. Go by feel through here. Very good. Oh, taking him. Yeah, you watch the gas. Some from the left, some from the right. That's very good, mate. Up to speed here. Let's go. Up to speed. One last corner to go. 2k to go and you're all over. 1.5k to go. Come on, mate. Let's go. It's a very good TT. Come on, your second fastest time here. Very good. Come on. Very good.
My girl got a limousine. I got a full-time job just to keep it clean. Got
I believe that last like 3-4k there. It's actually it's quite strong headwind.
Yeah. Mate, it's just day one done.
Yeah, I know.
Day one done. You're upright.
Yeah.
90 hours of racing the Giro's going to be, mate.
Yeah, petrifying. Yeah, I don't know if I'll sleep tonight. There's not much I can do on a course like that. I think I've done an okay ride. Still some guys to finish. Did what I could. We started, so happy days.
He seems pretty relaxed. Yates. That must have been nerve-wracking for a DS when you're getting up to those sort of speeds, Scotty.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we know that off the back of an Italian summer, the roads get really slippery. There's so much dust. And obviously in Italy, if people that haven't been there, there's a lot of diesel cars, a lot of diesel vehicles. That settles, the exhaust fumes of that settles on the roads as well. So if there's not much rain to wash it off, bit of dust over summer, plus the diesel fumes, they get really treacherous. Spain and Italy are really dangerous, even in dry conditions. And we saw that little slip that he had on one of the corners. Campeonato, as we've already mentioned, crashed as well. So once you're in the car, everything's out of your control. And you can hear Whitey saying, look, watch the gusts of wind. They're coming from the left and the right. Well, yeah, thanks. That wasn't very helpful. But he's just trying to do something. He's trying to offer something to give him some advice to calm him down. But it's challenging for the DS because it's just nerves until they get right to the very end. There's nothing they can do once they're in the car. But that was a really good ride. You know, John mentioned last night, this was the one that he was dangerous to him for the overall classification. He only lost 26 seconds. Forget about Garner. Garner's not going to be in the overall class. It's Geraint Thomas, who finished fourth on the stage. He's only 26 seconds behind him. He did so much better than all of the other contenders. So that shows that Simon's in really good form in a discipline that he's not that good at. He was very nervous about and still didn't lose much time to one of the best in the world in Geraint Thomas. So he's in good form.
Yeah, he seems to have improved his time trialing a little bit over the last couple of years. He did a pretty good time trial last stage of Torino Adriatico to win that, to beat Geraint Thomas for the overall, and didn't lose as much time as others thought he might in that final time trial of that. So he's obviously getting it together. But we spoke with Whitey, which Dan will wake up in a second, but he was talking about the real strong gusts of winds that were coming through in the town of Palermo towards the finish, where they're protected with the buildings, but they come across major crossroads, and suddenly that would be an open area that the wind would gust through. And I think that's what caught Lopez.
All right, well, here's the grab with Whitey from earlier today. Mitchelton-Scott Sports Director Matt White. Whitey, you must be pretty wrapped with the performance of Yates yesterday, mate.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really tricky time trial. I'm not sure how much people saw from the television there, but we had winds of 30 to 50 kilometres an hour. It was 38 degrees at the finish in Palermo yesterday. Real hot African winds. And the fastest time trial you'll ever see. Bombing down, I think they clocked Ghana at 106 kilometres an hour on the descent yesterday. So yesterday was really for us about limiting our losses, and the yardstick for us is Geraint Thomas as far as the GC guys and time trialers. So to lose 26 seconds, I'll definitely take that on day one.
Yeah, we spoke about that before the start, but I was watching it. Seriously, it was some people really, laid it down ridiculously. Obviously, it got slippery, but I couldn't work out what actually happened to Lopez. He just seemed to like he broke something and went down. It looked ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it was a combination with him. I think he's snapped his extensions at the same time as got hit. He's a little fella. got picked up by a gust of wind at the same time. So he was obviously in a pretty awkward situation when you break the clip-ons. And then the wind just picked him up and took him into the barricades. So I actually don't know. I know he's not in the race, starting the race today, but I don't actually know how he ended up injury-wise there, but it didn't look good.
No.
So many people wouldn't understand how much goes into the planning of a TT like that, particularly with like what time do you go off, wheel selection. I mean, how much went into that preparation for you guys with Yatesy?
Yeah, look, we've got availability to some pretty good weather apps at the moment, but you've actually got to put in the start times 48 hours before the race started. So we had a look at the weather, and there was a predicted weather, a total change of direction, which we did see. For the later riders, and we had a bit of a gamble that traditionally in these races you put your G's. Back in the day, you would have to put your leader in the last wave of riders. Now they don't enforce that, so we took a bit of a punt there and put Simon off, and he was the first GC rider to go off yesterday, and it did pay dividends. So I think the guys in the back end of the race, maybe the last 70 or 80 guys, had a total wind direction, which meant the first 1.5 kilometres of the climb before they started the descent was a headwind. So that's why you saw even the likes of Nibali and Fullsgang and those guys, they had lost 15 seconds to someone like Simon in the first 1.5K just because of the wind. There was no wind or tailwind for us 2 hours before, and they had a headwind. And then so that was one thing. But for us, it was a bit of a gamble, but it certainly paid off.
Also, I'm hearing through the grapevine, even with the wheel selection, like there was footage of Rowan Dennis getting speed wobbles, and I've heard that Geraint Thomas just said, "You know what, bugger it, let's just throw it all out there and use the disc wheels or whatever." What about the equipment side of things?
Yeah, I think with the Ineos lads, I think you're talking about. I think G rode a tri-spoke, which is a faster wheel, but it also has probably a little bit less stability with those gusts of wind. So what they were doing is they were descending at 70, 80k an hour in Palermo through the city, and it was quite protected. But then they were getting, they'd pass a street and they'd get these big gusts of winds, and the bigger guys can handle that better. But still, when you're traveling at 75 kilometers an hour on a TT bike, on the extensions, guys were getting taken. I followed Simon down there, and he was getting taken 5-6 feet from those gusts of winds, and you just not got to panic and let that wind, because when you've got a disc wheel in there, you're like a human sail, and not fight it. But to complicate things, we're in the center of a city, and there was manhole covers. There was the road surface wasn't perfect, so you're trying to judge that. Judge hitting those manhole covers, some odd potholes, while you are getting taken across the road with the gusts of wind at 70k an hour. So it was a tricky one, and we got through there with a very good result.
That was part one. Scotty, you were telling me about that with Geraint, and he just laid it down and said, "Bugger it, I'm just going to go full setup."
Yeah, yep. So he was asked about that, and they watched the video of Rowan Dennis, and he was really getting buffeted around. And the advice came back from the team, "Hey, look, we might go to a shallower front wheel, a C40 carbon wheel." And he thought about it and said, "Nah, stuff it. We're all in. We're all in." And that is possibly dangerous, of course, but he got through and finished fourth, so that's fine. But it's a real sign of confidence that he's there to win, and of course he is. He won the Tour de France, and he is the man for Ineos. They are looking for redemption now after the failure of the Tour de France by their standards. So it's a real show of confidence from him that we're going for it. No easy way to the end of this. We're going.
It's that old saying, "Win it or bin it."
Yeah, throw it all away. Wouldn't that be terrible if he crashed out? Imagine Dave Brailsford and the Ineos crew. What would they do? Yeah.
Someone would be fired for sure.
Well, did you see? I don't know if you looked at the. So we talk about Filippo Ganna winning the stage and Geraint Thomas and all the GC guys, but did you look at the other end who finished last? So we had Lopez who crashed out, unfortunately, but in last place was Luca Covilli, and he was outside the time cut. He was.
You're joking.
7 minutes 14 seconds down. The next best rider, so the first rider inside the time cut, was 4 minutes behind Gunner. So he's 3 minutes and 15 seconds slower than the second place, the second last rider in the race. Outside the time cut, gone.
Oh, wow. That's a bloody... You'd be shattered. He must be a lightweight, because if he was carrying some beef on that course, he would have been fine. All right.
Well, he might have been a lightweight in that he was just scared of the wind and didn't go very hard on the descent. Could have been that kind of lightweight.
Yeah. All right. Here's part 2 of our chat with Matt White.
So today is a different story. It's not such a long stage, but a tricky little finish with it looks like a fairly steep climb.
Yeah, so I came out to Sicily in December to check out these stages, and to my surprise, 3 days ago when I had a good look at the re-look at the stages, they totally changed the stage. So the finish climb is very similar, although they're using a road one behind the road. But we had a good look at it, and it's very similar. The difference is that the stage that I looked at went through the mainland, went from north to south. Today's stage is the big majority of the stages on the coast. But so Agrigento is where the World Championships finished in 1994, where Luc Leblanc won. And this climb, the final that I looked at was only 2 kilometres, and this climb is a bit over 4. It's not so hard to climb, but there is ramps there. There's a couple of ramps at 10, 12% for very short periods. But I would expect the favourite for me today is Michael Matthews. I think the form that he is in, you won't drop him on the climb, and if he gets a sniff of the finish, I think that the normal sprinters, the Demars, the Vivianis, those guys, they will not get up this climb. I think Michael has a good chance, and then I think you'll see a pretty select group. There'll be little splits today. Maybe 10 or 15 guys will clip off the front. With the likes of Simon, Nibley, the GC guys, plus the odd fast guy. A Ulysses or a Michael Matthews. But I don't expect Viviani or Demar or the pure sprinters to have a chance today.
We were just looking at the odds just before you came on. Actually, Dan had them up, and here they are. And Michael Matthews is short price favourite, and all the ones you're saying, although they think Demar might be able to almost get over it, but
I think Demar has little chance. Ulysses, Sagan of 2 years ago would be the odds-on favourite. I don't know. We'll see how he's moving today, because he was okay at the Tour de France, but he's certainly not the Sagan of a couple of years ago.
I remember that Worlds you're talking about in the early 90s. There I was there as some sort of manager, managing to get into trouble, really. But I remember that World title, that climb was pretty solid. It was solid. I remember Scotty Sunderland did a really good ride that day as well.
Now, it's the same. They're using the same hill, John, but I don't know, because, like I said, the course that I checked out in December was the same climb, but one road parallel. So it's the same climb we're going up, but the exact way from the Worlds, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's solid enough, and I dare say it was probably pretty warm in August in Sicily when you did the Worlds. It was
great.
It must be weird knowing that, Bling's obviously coming across next year. So if he wins today, he's not in Mitchelton-Scott colours, but you'd be pretty stoked to see him get the win.
Oh, as long as he doesn't beat Simon to the line. I think we've got quite a good chance as well today. But it's really hard for Simon to beat Bling in a sprint. But there's a section, I think, at 300 meters to go at like 7 or 8%. So it's a tough little run to the line. But I would expect a pretty select group of riders and any GC. It'll be a nervous last 5K for the GC guys, just because they just need to be there. And no one, when you saw yesterday that Fool's Gang Maker, Nibley lost considerable time. They can't afford to be giving away another 10 seconds today.
You might have to say to Bling, mate, if it comes down the pointy end, off you go. Line up, Simon. Think about your future, mate. Think about your future.
Look, I think we'll save that for the last week. But I think Bling's got a really good chance today, and then also in 2 days' time. Tomorrow's obviously Mount Etna, so tomorrow will be the first real showdown for the GC guys, and it's a Mount Etna that hasn't been used before. So there's 6 or 7 different ways to get to Mount Etna, and we're on the other side of Mount Etna than we traditionally use. There's very different ways to arrive to where we used to ride. So again, we were here in December, checked it out. We had a training camp in January, and actually Simon and a few of the climbers were here for 3 weeks just before lockdown in February. So we're all over tomorrow's stage, and really looking forward to it. But one day at a time. Got a relatively short, fast day for the punchy one riders today.
We'll get to our selections for today's stage a little bit later in the show. And we've got Alan Davis coming up as well. But here's the final part of our chat with Matt White, where we ask him all before we let you go, Whitey, and we probably could make this a tradition. What was on the menu? What was dinner?
Last night was pork with we get 2 varieties of pasta every day. So so you can and usually one has seafood involved. It does here while we're in Sicily. So two different types of pasta, and pork and some potatoes.
Oh, beautiful.
And a good Sicilian red. So that was last night. But we've been up early in the morning out for a staff jog. The only reason I'm going out for a jog is I prefer to exercise than to cut down on my eating.
Have you still got the pads? You still doing boxing, or you?
I mate, they've been in the bus since you left the team, but I struggle to find sparring partners these days, mate.
Is that mechanic? Is that bus driver still for movie star floating around? He's up at box.
Yeah. He's still around. There
you go.
Why are you trying to say that Dan was just a punching bag? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean Jonesy used to get a. Used to get a buster, mate.
We loved it.
I'd go for a run. Jonesy would go for a walk. We get back. We'd meet at 7:30. Whatever we do, but we'd only do 10 or 15 minutes on the punching bag. But that's enough.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I remember our first Tour de France. We had Jerry on the bags.
Yeah.
But I think people were scared. I think people were scared they were going to accidentally give him an uppercut.
Yeah, it was dangerous areas.
With Jerry's background, I'd be actually a bit scared that he'd give you one, mate.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember in the car park in Liège, in our first Tour de France. Right. There, we had Jerry on the pads there. We'd swap around. They're still in the bus, but I struggle to find a partner.
Well, we were doing bloody goal kicking challenges as well. Remember, like we were kicking for cash.
That ball is still in the bus, Jonesy.
Wow!
It just needs to get pumped a little bit, mate. It's been a bit flat for the last 5 years, but that ball has been taken out on the old rest.
We were pumped around here because the Pies got up by 1 point last night, and Jerry Sainters. So we're all pumped.
And the storm ran down the Eels as well.
Yeah. So, all good.
It was a monster weekend at sport. Yep. All right. Well, all the best today, mate. Looking forward to tuning in again and finding out what you had for dinner, for sure.
No worries, mate. Well, yeah, tomorrow I would expect Bling's the favourite today, but the young Portuguese kid should be in pink in this afternoon, I would think.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a good one. Almeida. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but the young Portuguese one on Quick Step, he's quality. He's quality. Young fella, 22, but he's did a great ride yesterday, and he can climb.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll watch out for him as well. You heard it here first on the detour. Good stuff, mate. Speak to you soon.
Have a good afternoon.
It was Matty White, as I said, asked all the hard questions. Now we've got Alan Davis in the waiting room ready to go. And before we get to him, Iffy, now it's your time to start paying some bills. How about you give some plugs?
The wonderful Mitchelton Hotel at the Mitchelton Winery on the beautiful Goulburn River in the Gambie. And a sensational place for a holiday. So Melbourne, you're 2 weeks away from opening up, but the rest of Victoria is flocking up there. I was up there last weekend. My daughter and her husband with their friends went for dinner, went for lunch in the beautiful restaurant there. So I called in and said hello to the mob, and it's looking absolutely resplendent, and you can't help but get a wonderful wine from the fantastic Mitchelton winery in there. Also, as I mentioned, there's an absolutely gorgeous downstairs Aboriginal gallery, art gallery. It is just brilliant. So get down there and have a look at that.
Did you buy any prints? Do they sell prints as well? That's as good as money, sir. That's an AOU.
Yeah. I bought some. I did buy some Prince. Yes, some
Prince Shiraz.
Prince Shiraz. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got a quick word from our great mates at Bike Exchange, and then we're going to have Alan Davis at the back end of this brilliant ad from Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Great commercial. Now it's time to welcome our next guest. He's a winner of the Tour Down Under. He's Commonwealth Games champion. He ran third at Milan San Remo, but he's better than that. He's a ripping bloke. Alan Davis joins us. Albie, how you travelling, mate?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm always good, mate. Yeah.
Fellas, Iffy.
Albie, how are you, mate?
Scotty.
Very well.
Former teammate of mine at Mappe. Good to see you, Al.
Yeah, mate, for sure.
Actually, I was a former teammate of yours. We'll put it around the other way because you were the far better road rider.
I think we're all teammates at Cadell.
Albie, obviously the Giro's on at the moment. What were your memories of riding the Giro? Were you a big fan?
I really enjoyed it, Dan. Unfortunately, I only did one. And that was in 2009 where I ran into you guys, Scotty. And
that's right.
Back in the day. But I really enjoyed it, mate. I spent a lot of time in Italy with the Australian Institute of Sport and the national system back then. So basically did about 6 years and turned professional, as Scotty said, with Mappe. So Italy is close to my heart, and it was good to do the Giro.
That was a pretty fun year, Scotty, the 2009. We're going to relive some classic moments from the Tour, but that Giro that year, we had a lot of fun. And I remember there was one particular stage, Scotty, when Albie was a bit of a highlight with the content.
Yeah, stage 8, I think it was, wasn't it? So we spoke to him on stage 9 after stage 8, where you then told us about how you'd had a bit of a stomach bug through stage 8, which gave you basically, there's no sugarcoating this, you had diarrhea, you had the runs, but like all professional cyclists, this is stage 8, you've got to get another couple of weeks. Maybe you could do something later on in the Giro, so you have to get to the finish. But you had to go to the toilet several times during the stage. And I'll get you to pick up on this, Albie. But the thing that really stood out to me was you were using as toilet paper the race caps you were getting from the team car. And I think maybe a little fan got more than he bargained for.
Oh, yeah, no. Thanks for bringing that up.
Mate, it's 8 o'clock. Everyone's had dinner. It's fine.
Yeah. No, anyone eating chocolate mousse for dessert is in a bit of trouble right now.
Oh, Scotty.
It was, unfortunately true, Scotty. Yeah, I had a. It was an interesting story actually because we just come down from the top of Austria back in Italy, had a couple of hard days, and I remember the stage finished in Bergamo. So it's quite tough up the top there in the Lombardy region of Italy. So the start of the stage, I was going pretty good, went over these climbs, and as a quick sprinter and who could climb a bit, I was front group and all that sort of stuff. And then about halfway through the stage, it's like, oh, a bit of a punch in the guts. I was like, oh, that didn't feel real good. And then so I don't know, it's probably 100k to go, mate, and she went downhill from there real quick. So within the next sort of 20 to 30k, I was out the back of that group that I was in, and by that stage, it was just coming. I was coming out of. I was vomiting, and I was just trying to get through the stage as best I could. And then, long story short, all the groups come past me. All I had was my team car behind me. They were handing me caps and also the feed bags. So I was actually it was coming out of my mouth, and I was doing the old number 2 into these caps as I was riding, because I had to get to the finish. There was a time limit to be in to continue in the race. So I'm doing what I had to do into these caps. And the crowd up the north of Italy are huge. They're on either sides of the road watching this bloody solo Australian out the back of the race with one team car behind him. And I'm throwing these caps out after doing what I had to do in them, mate. And the crowd's going unbelievably wild for these caps, and I'm going, oh, no. This kid's dying, classic catches in the slips for these field caps.
I remember saying to you, stage 8, saw date, and just pointed the camera, pointed the microphone away you went. But do you find that the Giro back then, it was just a different way they used to race? Like, you had all these big characters, and it was on from the gun some days, but then there were some days where, like, the bosses of the peloton would tell everyone to sit up. Do you feel that it's really changed dramatically to how they race nowadays?
Yeah, for sure, Dan. It was different back in those days. You had the big Chippo. He was normally the number 1.
Have a look at this, Kit. I knew you were going to mention Chippo. Yeah.
So
is
if
brilliant.
was right in that, mate, you've got pretty much authority of the bunch.
And Iffy, look at this one. Chippo is smoking at the Giro.
Oh, there you go. I bet he got paid a lot more than me.
Yeah.
No, definitely changed, Dan. Really long stages as well. So, there was what they used to call it, the piano at the start of the stages, and there's no helmets back then either, so you could put the gel in the hair at the start and it really looked cool.
But Scotty, do you remember back then, even the riders used to complain about the conditions at the Giro? Remember that one interview we did with Jens Voigt? And he cracked it. And he said there's no lights in the tunnels. And he said one day we're just going to get in the bus and we're going to go to the finish. And we're not going to race. And we're going to go, see, we told you if you didn't take it serious. They've always had issues with that at the Giro as well, eh?
Yeah, well, you touch on what we mentioned before, like no real rider's voice, around safety. And it's the directors sportifs that are the ones that really, put it up. But it's too late once you get to the stage. When you're halfway through and you finally then come across a tunnel that doesn't have any lights in it, it's too late then, isn't it? The crash happens, someone gets hurt. But it is a little bit notorious for that. And that goes to what we spoke about yesterday, that stage in Milan, when the riders did actually protest because of the conditions, with traffic on the course and massive big potholes. So the riders then, they actually... The strange thing is, though, they still raced the last 30 Ks. They still wanted a result. So they still went absolutely flat chat, probably faster than they would have for the whole stage for the final 30 because they were fresher. So perhaps that was even more dangerous to do that. But, look, it's an outdoor sport. It's really challenging to try and sanitise a road for over 180, 200 kilometres in length. That's the beauty of the sport. But it is also the organiser's responsibility, as it is for John and I when we do our events that we run, to make sure that the courses are safe. And if that road's not right, go down another road. Put barriers up, to put them around one side of the roundabout, not the other. You've got to do all these things. And the Tour de France get that really well. The Giro, they seem to, they've stopped for coffee a bit too often on their course reconnaissance.
I was looking at some footage, Albie, and 2009, you then did the sign-on for the team presentation at the Tour, but you didn't race the Tour with Quickstep. What happened there?
Yeah, so the Giro was obviously back in the normal days. It was in May. So we had the Tour obviously in July. So I did the Giro and that stage actually Scotty was talking about in Milan. That was the next day after the diarrhea stage. So I run a drum there. So I had a really good Giro in the end actually, and so my name got thrown in the hat for the Tour. I was with Quickstep, and at that time, we just heard it at the end of the Giro that unfortunately Tom Boonen had another cocaine test positive. So it was undecided whether he was allowed to ride the the tour or not, or if there's time to fight it within the authorities or whatever. And so mine, obviously, I was the next sprinter on the team, and so my name got thrown in the hat there. So I went to, long story short, again, went to the start was in Monaco that year, and it was still going on with the courts and the lawyers and whatnot. So I did the presentation. I was ready to go again. I trained from the Giro to the Tour for it, and got the call on the eve of the race that Tom was allowed to race again, and sort of all the other riders that were selected in the race had already had plans since the last winter that they needed to race, and there was some money to be made in the crits after the tour for a lot of these blokes up in Belgium. So I got the arse.
Yeah. That must have been bloody hard to take, though, to do the actual prezzo and to mentally be ready to rock and roll, and then right at the death, like, nah, you're not riding.
Yeah, it was a tough one to take, Dan, because I was sort of I was in a really fine purple patch in my career, and the first times I did the tour were my first Tour de France in 2004 and 2005 as a 23-year-old and a 24-year-old. So I was really early on in my career and got the taste of it, and obviously ticked that dream. But I really wanted to go back and give it a crack at winning some stages and doing some other things that I was capable of doing, I believe. And that was a year that I thought I was going to get that opportunity, and unfortunately it didn't happen, mate. And I didn't get a chance to go back there at all.
You would have had great form, mate. And I think it goes back to that stage 8 in the Giro where you just stripped out a bit more extra weight, so you just floated through the times a bit more in the Giro and just floated into the Tour. So it is unfortunate you didn't get to use that extra form. A bit of deli belly. As long as it doesn't kill you, it gets you ripped in that front group.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Delhi, there's a bit of an anniversary, Scotty, from Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, was it yesterday or 2 days ago that it was 10 years to the day that when you won the Commonwealth Games?
Look at this bloke. Hey, look at him.
Who's that bloke?
Look at this bloke.
A 14-year-old kid won the Com Games.
Yeah, it looks like you just packed your little school lunch, got on your little bike.
Yeah. Went there and won one of those medals. No, 10 years yesterday. That's right, Scotty. I got a message. Someone sent it through, so it was a 10-year anniversary yesterday. Actually,
great finale. Those closing kilometres we had Chris Sutton in the breakaway group, so we're covered with a fast guy for Australia if it came down to it. He was already G'd up, ready to go for the sprint for the gold, and then you jumped across, and then he was amazing. He just flicked, didn't he? Just okay, well, we've got a faster guy here now, so I'm going to work for Albie instead. It was a fascinating final 10Ks, that race.
Yeah, it was a great race in the end. We had Mark Cavendish there to deal with. He was the fastest man probably ever in sprinting, and he was in the prime form at that time. So I basically had to deal with him behind. So up the road went David Miller, Chris Sutton,
Royston, was it?
Rolston, yeah, no, I think one more. I'm not sure who it was. So it was a really strong group up the road with Chris. So we had a really good option there, and behind I was there with another small group. What was left, and Cavendish was there. So I basically just accelerated out of a corner and got a few 100 meters on the group, and I thought, stuff it, I'm going to keep going. I was by myself then, so I wasn't bringing anyone with me, and Cav blew, and so I went across to the guys in front, and and then Chris just went into automatic mode and did an awesome lead out, and we cleaned it up.
Do you remember the story, Albie, about the stray dogs and the concern that I don't know if you heard.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, the man and her name was Sheila Dickshit. That was her name. She was the one that got rid of all the dogs.
Really?
Is that what you were going to talk about when they said, "Hey, we've got a problem with stray dogs in Delhi"?
We can't have the dogs running out into the peloton because it was a genuine concern, and they had actually. There was also a real terrorism threat as well, so they put up the fences all the way around the circuit, so there were very few spectators, unfortunately. But the dogs, there were so many stray dogs in Delhi, and the story was that they went around, collected them all out of safety of the riders, took them out of town, And then after the games, they brought them back and released them back in Delhi. Now, I sense there was another greater opportunity that they may have thought about at this point, and I don't think those dogs were ever seen again.
No, they did. They got rid of all the dogs, and everyone said, "Hey, what are you going to do with those dogs?" And they said, "No, we'll bring them back." No,
Yeah, we'll bring them back.
The circle was around the main part of the city, and I remember it clearly. There was caged off. It was like zoo and caged animals, zoo animals, attractions at the zoo. So it was just really high, 9-12 foot fences either sides of the road. And that was the whole way around the circuit. And
that must be worried about the dogs. Must be able to jump bloody high in Delhi. Is all I can say.
It was a weird feeling. But,
the Delhi Dashhounds. Now, one thing people might not know about you, Alan, and that is you're a very accomplished chef. In fact, the first video we did with Green Edge back in the day, you showed us your culinary delights. This is the highlights of your Bundaberg rum balls.
Hi, I'm Alan Davis. This is the first episode of Bike Riders Can't Cook, and today we'll be making Bundaberg rum balls. The first thing you'll need is milk arrowroots. Throw as many as you want in. You can even add half. Throw that in as well. Once you've chucked in the whole bag, it's bloody good to have one of these, especially after a rough day on the bike. Keep bashing away until they're into small pieces. I'm halfway stirring and I forgot the most important ingredient. The other Bundaberg's finest, Bundaberg rum. Alright, so throw a bit of that in. Remember, if you got kids, probably 6 will do them on Christmas Day, but...
No, I can't.
Just...
It's got maggots in it.
Put hairs on your chest, eh? Nice. Got the thumbs
Actually,
up.
very good, Albie. I'm sorry I was so sceptical.
Really? You want one, mate?
I like how you didn't know who Jens Kukler was. You want one way? The funny thing about that is we had to sneak alcohol in. That was shot at the AIS, and they had a strict no alcohol policy. You couldn't bring alcohol on the campus. And I remember once we finished filming, I had a nip for good luck. But no, they were bloody beautiful. They were really good.
Good old days, mate. That was the first one off. That was the first cow off the rank too, wasn't it? For cooking shows. So.
Yep.
Yeah, no, you did your fine work there, mate.
And then you were one of the first guys that we roped in for the Call Me Maybe video as well, Albie. You and Mitch Docker, we went down to the beach, and that was when that was the Vuelta, right? And so, Alan, you've obviously got a very good relationship with Neil the Sheriff Stevens. He was a hard taskmaster, but some of his speeches were classic. Do you remember that one he gave to Simon Clark after winning a stage at the Vuelta? And you were late because you were getting a haircut.
Oh, mate, there's been plenty of Steve has a straight shooter, that's why I get on well with him too. So, you definitely know where you stand with the sheriff, which is good. I really like that sort of character, and it's unfortunately, the old sheriff, he's been a bit quiet, so I have to go around and see him actually and catch up and have a yarn and have a few beers and reminisce the old times.
Well, I just remember, I think Simon Clark won a stage, it might have been stage 5 or whatever, but Sheriff, he wanted to up the ante and he detected everyone was having a little bit too much fun in the group. So he called this meeting and Alan was out getting a haircut. And he's like, "Where's Albie?"
On the rest day, wasn't it?
On the rest day. Yeah, and he brings him in and he's going, he's just, when that vein fills with blood. And like he's steaming. And he said to the group, he goes, "Right, we've won a stage. Clarkie, well done, you won a stage. Some people, not me, some people might have said you got a little bit lucky, with the stage. But, you win 2 stages. They go, hey, we've got ourselves a bike rider. And I'll tell you right now, only hard bastards win in the last week of a Grand Tour. And everyone's like, oh, when did you win your stage at Tour de France? Last week. So he just wanted to up the ante the whole time. If your favourite memories of Albie would have to be the Bay Classics, over the years.
Of course. Well, not. I've watched him over the years. He's been an absolutely legend of a bike rider. But yes, he was a great participant in the Bay Crits and took out the series. I do remember when you did take out the series, there was this young kid from New South Wales we'd never heard of. Did come past you and give you a cold in the last stage. Young bloke named Caleb Ewan, but but you still won the series, mate.
Yeah, I remember that was when Caleb come on the show, wasn't it? Come on the scene. He come off their was it Tassie Carnival, Christmas Carnivals, and we knew we had something special there then.
Yeah.
Now, let people know what you're up to nowadays, Albie. You've got your own podcast. You're doing a series, This Cycling Life. You've been keeping pretty busy, doing a bit of coaching as well.
Yeah, Dan. So since basically when I retired, pretty much straight away, I went into coaching, online coaching, and also doing luxury cycling holidays. Unfortunately, this year's a bit that's all been cancelled due to COVID-19, and it looks like next year's going to be pretty rough as well. So, been heavily involved with coaching. I've also had a sports director job over the years as well. So that's basically my dream, mate, to be a sports director and continue using my skills. I'm also working with the UCI as of 2 years now as a technical advisor. So it was interesting listening to you guys talk about safety. There's definitely one area that we have improved a hell of a lot and come a long way, but we've got a bit of time to go yet as well. So I work with them, and I've got the World to Spain coming up in a couple of weeks with the UCI. So I've also got a car detailing business that I started up 2 years ago, so that keeps me busy as well.
Yeah, and you're doing that series, as I said, This Cycling Life. Were you interviewing different personalities?
Yes, so we've got my mate Mick Rogers, good mate and ex-teammate, also my colleague and also good mate of mine, Jamie Anderson. We have a webinar series podcast called This Cycling Life, and we basically come across it and thought of it during the lockdown here in Spain at the start of the year. So it's been really good. We've been giving our personal examples of situations. Jamie, he's a professor, and how he juggles his cycling passion with his daily routines. And a lot of people have got a lot out of it, and we've had a good response. And Mick and I throw our 2 bobs worth in as well.
Before I let you go, mate, we ask this on the show all the time. When you look back at your career and you look at the successes and so forth, what do you think the key elements people extract from your journey, mate?
Well, I hope they extract mateship. That's definitely something that I miss from a racing days. For me, it was never about the results or winning, so to speak. It was just about getting, going into war, so to speak, with your mates and having a plan, and we all do our jobs to get the best result possible. And whether that's winning or second or 41st, that feeling of camaraderie that you get with your teammates is hopefully they feel the same way that I did, and something that I really miss today.
Well, that's a good point. Is that, like, obviously iffy, Scotty, is that the thing when you do get to the point where you retire and you go into the next phase, the thing that you sort of miss the most is being around teammates and that environment?
Oh, for sure. That's one of the things that's come up. So this week, the last couple of weeks, has been the 20-year anniversary of the Sydney Olympics. So I've had a bit of media around that. And the question pops up, so do you miss racing? And I don't miss the competition so much. I get competition by just going out in the local bunch and seeing whether I can still hang on or, hurt the other guys in some way. That's enough. It's the lifestyle of a professional athlete. It's certainly a privileged environment to be in. I've got to carry my own suitcases now. It's been a long time that I have. It's not as easy as it used to be. But, yeah, it's that mateship, being in a professional team environment, in that world of professional sport is quite special. Very few people get to experience it at that level. And that's the thing that I would miss, just being in that environment.
What about you, John? Do you miss the champagne and darts? As he's coughing. Perfect timing.
Look, you do. Of course, you missed that. But I've been lucky to have stayed involved in the sport. So I went straight. Not long after I stopped racing, I started promoting events and working a bit of journalism. So I've still been going along and catching up with people, and so I've managed to feel like I'm a part of it. I suffer with the Peter Pan syndrome, so I always think I'm one of the boys. So I suppose I've got by with that. But yeah, you do miss the mates that you raced with, no doubt.
Before we let you go, Albie, who are you tipping for the Giro this year, mate?
I think I'll spread it out a bit, mate, this year for the Giro. I think Yates will go close. And Volkswagen and Gerrit Thomas, they're my top three. I just don't know what order. I think after yesterday's stage, Gerrit Thomas and Yatesy come out of that really well compared to all the other GC contenders. And I think we've got a good chance for the Aussies today with Bling Matthews.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today's like back in your heyday, this type of finish, like it's a short hill, it's fresh legs, second day of the Giro. This could have been a stage for you. I think this is something you would have penciled off at the start of a Giro back in the day. For sure, Scotty. I would have had the big Borrow and big Nico and would have bloody done circles around this stage. Anything that finished uphill sort of suited my characteristics as a rider. So this would have been top of the list, mate, for sure. And also, it gives a little carrot in front of you to chase the pink jersey. You put in a good time trial yesterday, and you have a good day today. You can have a really good crack at getting the pink jersey.
Before we let you go, Wendy Superfan wants to know: does a UCI rep travel the course checking all safeties in place before the riders each day?
Yes. So there's 5 technical advisors. So the races I cover, the Australian races in the Spanish calendar, World Tour calendar, and it's only for World Tour races. And yes, we do drive the course before the riders get there and have to make adjustments if we see they need to be made.
Good stuff, mate. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Albie. As I said, you've had a pretty amazing career and you're a ripping bloke, so we've enjoyed having you on the show, and we'll have to get you on again soon. All the best for your endeavours in the future, mate.
Thanks, Dan. Pleasure to be here, fellas. Thanks for the opportunity.
See you, Albie. I actually think of you every time I get on my bike, Albie, which has been a little bit more lately, because I've got one of the original Scott team bikes, and it was your spare bike, Albie. You never actually ever rode it, I don't think, but it's we're similar size, of course, and it doesn't go quite as quick as what it would have with you on it, but at least these days I'm not too heavy, so we get by.
I'm glad you've got it, mate. I'm glad you're taking care of it, JT. It's in good hands,
mate. Good stuff, mate. Take it easy, buddy.
Yeah, I'll be back.
See you, buddy.
Alan Davis, absolute superstar. Now, we've got a segment that we love to go through every week, and that's the Detour Deloitte.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Now, this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, Iffy, you were ribbing me, right? You were saying, how big I was. Now, have a look at this. Where was this, Scotty? This is the 2009 Tour de France, is it?
It's the Tour, Yep, Tour de France.
Who is that guy?
I didn't send that photo in either, John. I didn't at all. But, that's me. It's Who
was the guy in the white shirt? I don't know who that was.
Hey, I'm willing to cop it as well, because I've uncovered this hard drive where we're going to unpack the 2009 Tour de France. And there, unfortunately, was a video when we were staying in Monaco for the presentation. And I am absolutely astounded at how big I was back then. Let's have a look.
What's going on, Josie? What's going on here, mate?
There's been a bit of an incident. When you stay on beds like this, you got to be careful on how you sit on them. Don't just jump on them. But, oh shit, there goes another one. I've done 4 slats.
4 slats in one night?
4 slats in one night, so I'm sleeping in a bit of a dugout till...
Yeah, 4 slats. Not my finest hours.
How big were you? You were 4 slats big.
Yeah. But Scotty, that was an amazing Tour de France. You got to rub shoulders with some pretty big celebrities. Here's a snippet of one of those celebrities.
Ben, here at the Tour de France, are you a cycling fan?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You ride yourself?
No. I mean, I can ride, but I'm not like really a good rider.
So we should organise a bike for you and get you out there.
I offered to help out Lance's team, but they said they were full up.
Well, on paper they're fairly strong, and it'd be a pretty tough call to get in there.
I think they're looking pretty good. They don't need my help.
Well, have a good day, mate. Thank you.
Well, that was obviously Ben Stiller. Now, Lance used to attract some big hitters, and Stiller, he wrecked his bike, didn't he, Scotty? The time trial bike.
Yeah, he told us, and we didn't know if he was joking or not, but he said he jumped on Lance's bike before the team time trial, and it had been arranged. Lance had said to him, hey, look, for the media, jump on my time trial bike. It was on the home trainer for the warm-up, and he's riding away on it, whatever, but then he's hit the gear lever and then pedalled, and he's actually got the chain jammed in the back end, in the cassette and the derailleur. No one thought too much of it. He got off the bike, whatever. But then the mechanics realised that in doing that, he twisted the chain, and they had to actually take the chain off, put a new one on, and they were scrambling only minutes before the team time trial because Lance, Ben Stiller did actually break Lance Armstrong's bike. And we didn't find that out for sure until he came back the next year. And then I followed up, and asked him the questions, and he told us the full story. He said, "Oh, absolutely, it was a true story. I broke Lance's bike." And so you imagine the desperation of the team. First time back to the Tour de France for Lance, and right before the team time trial, which they did very, very well in.
And speaking of Lance, you jogged my memory yesterday about the time I hit him in the head with the camera. Now we've got that vision. Now there is some swearing involved. That's not us. It's Lance. It's all Lance. Blame him. So just earmuff it. But we didn't want to bleep it out because it's as raw as it gets.
Okay, go to the control. How do you feel about this, Lance? Get the fuck out of the way! Fucking morons! Move back, asshole! Yes, the guys go with you. How far is it? 1 moment. 40 meters? No, 40 meters.
It just gives you an idea of those scrums. Like, they were absolutely madness. And I remember when I hit his head, I thought, oh, I've stuffed up here. So I was able to sort of pull my way out of it. But yeah, he went absolutely mental. But I was going to say the funniest was when after that you got to do a very famous interview with Frank Schleck.
We're all waiting for you to attack Lance. Just didn't quite have the legs today.
Well, I don't know, but as far as I know, I was attacking. I don't know if you haven't seen it, but I did.
I didn't actually. I was up here, stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Right, explain yourself, Scotty.
Explain yourself. Well, I did the ultimate sin, right? So don't go in with a question that's loaded as if you actually watched the whole stage and you know what you're talking about. So yeah, that was Mont Ventoux. So same with Lance Armstrong. That was the top of Mont Ventoux. There isn't much of a space up there at all, as we saw with Lance and the scrum. And Frank Schleck was always very accommodating, and he was actually going into the anti-doping control. And just through the fence, I said, Frank, we can have a quick grab. I hadn't really seen anything. We took so long to get to the top of the climb that day. It's packed. We get there fairly close to when the riders finish. So at the very top, there was one little monitor for everyone to watch. So you're trying to look and the sun's on it. And you couldn't really see anything. So I just thought, you know what? It looked as if he hadn't, the 2 minutes of the entire 22-kilometre climb that I'd watched, he hadn't attacked. So I just thought he must have attacked for the other parts either. So I just hit with it. And I thought, hang on, we can't go with this. I said, look, you know what, mate? I was honest. I said, and he didn't just rip into me. I thought he was quite diplomatic. And I said, yeah, look, I actually hadn't seen anything. Can we just start that again? I feel like an idiot. which I was. But I learned a lesson from that. There's a couple of things. Don't go in with a loaded question. If you haven't seen it, don't assume you have. Let them tell the story. And the other one is actually be ready for a second question. Because if you go in with your first question, you haven't thought about a second, and they come back with no or yeah, then there's this moment of pause, this awkward silence while you think, oh, I've got to come up with another question. So, always have two questions loaded and ready to go.
If you always got along well with the Schleck brothers?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, they're a gentleman. And I can remember the last Tour Down Under they did. Frank was on the start line. I was up in the VIP, and it just after I'd got a bit crook, and I'd lost about 35 kilos. And I remember leaning over and saying, "G'day, Frank." And he looked up to me. He didn't even recognise me. And someone said to him, "That was Johnny Javoro." And so he went out of his way after the stage finished to come and find me and say, "I'm sorry, John, I didn't recognise you," because I was only half the man I used to be.
Now, that wraps up the Detour DeLorean. It's all about who do we think for tonight's stage, boys? Who are we tipping?
It's hard to not go with Michael Matthews. This is going to be a big test for all of us to see the form of Peter Sagan. I think, I would assume after having raced the Tour de France now, I think he'll be in better form, but it will be really interesting because we always expect Peter to be, the Peter Sagan we know, but he's getting older. He's won the green jersey at the Tour de France 7 out of 9 years. Eventually he's going to have to start slowing down. So it's going to be a real interesting test to see if Sagan will be in the mix. But Michael Matthews, and perhaps for the Almeida, as you can see, Almeida down the bottom there, $13. He's sitting second in the overall classification, as Matt White mentioned. He's a real danger for tonight. He finished third in the Tour of Burgos when racing recommenced earlier this year. And he was third behind Remco Evenepoel and Mikel Landa. So he can climb. He'll be able to get up this hill. He might be the new leader of the Tour.
Yeah, Whitey picked him. Whitey picked him to be in pink tonight as well. Look, I can't go past Bling, and I reckon those top three on the odds are where they're going to finish in the stage too. I think, so that's where if you want to go for trifecta, that's the one.
I reckon the way he was talking, it sounded even harder than what it looks like on the profile. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Simon Yates is bopping around the top three. And as you said, Scotty, he's clearly in form, and he is that sort of punchy climber, and he can go with some fast guys, and all the seconds are going to count. So I think Yates, you can get him about $26. That's the each way play I'd be going for.
Yeah, look, he is.
Each way, I'd go with that. Yeah.
Well, this time, John, I'll tell you, I've put the bet on and I'm not cashing out. So let's do it. Let's make some craft.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Alaphilippe, the Liège-Bastogne-Liège is on as well.
Oh, yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, odds not odds on favourite, but obviously as the world champion, he's a man to go for it. And the women's Liège-Bastogne-Liège as well. Hard to go past the Dutch, Anna van der Breggen and Annemiek van Vleuten. She'll be better than she was at Worlds because she did a wrist coming back from that crash at the Giro Rosa. So I reckon Van Vleuten for the win.
Yep, good tip. All right, well, anything else to add, Iffy, before we go?
I think Alaphilippe will win tonight, even though I think it was Bert said he's a little party boy and he'd been playing up pretty hard since winning the world title. But he's also one of the most talented all-round cyclists I've ever seen, and he's like the ever-ready Energizer bunny. He just never runs out of steam. He bops away there all over the bike, and I think he'll win that one tonight. And it should be great. I love the Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's a great race.
It'll be a cracker. Mathieu van der Poel, he won the final stage, 50-kilometre solo breakaway at Brinkback Tour the other day, Brinkback Tour. So he's exceptional. He's Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel. These guys are just exceptional. So he'll be in the mix, no doubt. Pogačar and Roglic are back as well. So let's see how the Tour boys can go. Mark Hirschi's another one that's going to be at Liège. And it'll be interesting to see how Richie Porte and Chris Froome go. Froome's on the start line as well. Obviously not a favourite for it, but it'll just be good to see the progression of Chris Froome if he's better than he was the last time we saw him on the bike.
I'm just thinking then, I can't believe I didn't run the 2014 Liège win from Giro as the DeLorean video. That was a bit of a brain fart. Instead, we ran Frank Schleck. Oh, well.
Yes, would have been a good one actually. But anyway, next time
We'll play it tomorrow.
Play
Doesn't
tomorrow.
matter.
Play tomorrow. Yeah.
Gianni
All right.
Damani. All right, no worries. Thanks for joining in. As we said, spread the word. Facebook / Detour Pod, and it's on YouTube, LinkedIn. I think we're on Periscope, on Twitter, and get amongst it. 7:30 every night. We'll see you again tomorrow. Cheers.